Hello everyone, let me introduce myself. My name is Rizka Dwi Aprilia, and in this video I will present about testing, assessing, and teaching. Now, we will begin by looking at this map. As you can see, there are three elements in the circle: teaching, assessment, and test. Some circles are bigger than the others, and it shows the relationship between these three elements. Let's take a look at the smallest circle, test. What is a test? Well, to put it simply, a test is a method to measure one's ability at a given subject. It is an inevitable part of learning, especially in a classroom setting where a test is used as a method or instrument with a set of techniques, procedures, or items. A test should be able to measure students' knowledge and performance. It must be able to measure individuals' ability with an explicit and structured method, as well as having a specific form of reporting measurement, be it in the form of percentile ranks, numerical score, and perhaps subscores. Finally, a test should measure in a given domain of a person's ability. Now we are moving into the medium-sized circle, assessment. Assessment can be defined as an ongoing process of assessing students' performance. There is a slight difference between test and assessment. Tests are prepared administrative procedures that occur at identifiable times, such as final test or final exam and middle test. In a test, the students must show their best abilities with full understanding that their performance are being measured and evaluated. An assessment, however, happens whenever a student responds to a question or offers a comment. This performance in class is assessed by the student himself, the teacher, and possibly the other students, either incidental or intended, in order to give clues on how to improve the student's performance. Now, what is the relationship between teaching, assessment, and test? Well, imagine that all of the students are the tennis player, and the teacher acts as a coach. Teaching, in the sense, provides the students with the opportunities to practice, to set goals, and to process the advices or feedback that is given from the coach so that the students or tennis player are able to master the skills needed in playing tennis. During these practice activities, the teacher or the coach observe the students' performance and making various evaluation of the learners. These various evaluation can be referred as the assessments. A test, in the sense, can be imagined as a tournament that all players have to join in order to show their best ability after the practices. While doing so, they realize that their overall competence is judged in the terms of trials and errors. There are other ways to differentiate between assessment and test. It is to distinguish between the forms of assessment: informal and formal assessment. Informal assessment can take many different forms, starting from incidental, unplanned comments and response, along with impromptu feedback to the students. For example, by saying, "Nice job," and then, "I think you meant to say you broke the glass, not you break the glass," or even putting a smiley face on some homework. While formal assessment can be in the form of exercises, procedures that is specifically designed to measure the skills and the knowledge. A part of this formal assessment is a test, but remember, it is only a part of it. Not all formal assessment is a test. For instance, you might use a student's journal or portfolio materials as formal assessment of a certain subject, but it is quite hard to say that these two procedures as a test, as We can see that test is usually time constrained and draw on limited sample of behavior. As for the summative and formative assessment, these two functions are related to how assessment procedure is used. For instance, in the formative assessment, the evaluation is done while the students are in the process of forming their competence and skills. This assessment helps to develop a learner's language. As in the summative assessment, it measures or summarizes what the students have learned and typically occurred at the end of the course or unit of instruction. It provides an insight of how well the student has accomplished the learning objective. However, it doesn't necessarily point a way of a future progress of the students. Now we will go into another terminology in assessment. Norm reference test and criterion reference test. Norm reference test interprets the test taker score in relation to average score or mean, the middle score or median, standard deviation or the extent of variability in the scores, and the percentile rank. This norm reference test places test takers in ranked order, and it is usually reported the scores back in the form of numerical score and percentile rank. The example of this test is the standardized tests such as TOEFL test or SAT test, which are intended to be administered to a large audience, and the primary concern of this test is money and the efficiency. While in the criterion reference test, these tests are designed to give test takers feedback, usually in form of grades on a specific course or lesson objectives. This test is usually involves students in only one class, where the distribution of scores in form of the rank order are not a concern, as long as the test assess the appropriate objectives. And now we are going to talk about the approaches to language testing throughout the history. In early 70s and 80s, there are two major approaches to language testing, the discrete point and integrative testing. These two approaches had sparked many debate across the academicians. These discrete point tests are the tests that is constructed based on the assumption that language can be broken down into components such as language skills like listening, speaking, reading, and writing, as well as the various units of languages. Those parts believed to be able to be tested successfully in separate ways. In the era of emphasizing communication, Aller in 1979 argued that language competence is a unified set of interacting abilities that cannot be separated. Hence, the integrative test, in which the testing the global competence of language, including the language skills and other discrete points of the language. Several forms of integrative tests then introduced, such as cloze test and dictation. And then by the mid-80s, the language testing is focused on designing a communicative language tests with corresponded to language used in a non-test situation. This means that the test is expected to mirror the language used in real life in the process of communication. Okay, and now the test designers are tackling this new student-centered agenda in testing. Instead of offering selective response tags, there is performance-based assessment of language that is involved in oral and written production, with open-ended responses and integrated skills performance. It is also involved group performances and interactive tests. Although this performance-based assessment is time-consuming and therefore it's quite expensive. The efforts are deemed worthy as the students are assessed as they perform actual or simulated real-world tests. Hence, there's a higher validity content achieved in the test. As the new approaches to testing challenges the assessment experts and classroom teachers, there are some issues that may also stimulate the effort to improve classroom testing. There are new views of intelligence, an alternative assessment, and computer-based testing. As the theories of intelligence evolve, the challenge in creating the test increase. We have to create a test that is testing interpersonal, creative, communicative, and interactive skills to tap the whole language skills, learning process, and negotiate meaning from the students. And by doing so, we are prompted to place trust in our subjectivity and intuition. As the performance-based assessment accepted globally, it should be noted that there is alternative assessment that is able to assess the students in more subjective evaluation, more individualization, and more interaction in the process of offering feedback in assessment. And thus, this new alternative assessment might provide useful feedback for the students, the potential raise of intrinsic motivation, and ultimately a complete description of the student's ability. In accordance to the latest technology development, the computer-based testing appeared with many advantages, particularly in classroom-based setting, where a large standardized test offers easier administration to many test takers at once, as well as electronically scoring for rapid reporting result. By using this technology creatively, the testers will also be able to increase their interactive exchange and promote autonomy in learning. All right, I think that's all the materials I present to you for today. Thank you for watching. See ya.